What you are about to hear was never supposed to leak, but it did. And once you know it, you cannot unknow it. Hello, friends. My name is James, and you are watching Royal Daily Report, your number one source for the most exclusive, most shocking, and most talked about royal stories on the internet. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you do not want to miss what we have coming. And if you have been here from the beginning, you already know. We never stop. We never hold back. And tonight is no different. Let us get into it. She left the royal family saying she wanted privacy. She moved to California saying she wanted peace. She launched a Netflix show, a lifestyle brand, a humanitarian campaign, and a very deliberate public reinvention as one of America's most aspirational women. And then Saturday Night Live called her an American terrorist on live television in front of millions of viewers. And Piers Morgan, the man she reportedly got fired from British television, celebrated it louder than anyone on earth. Tonight we are telling you the full story of the SNL jokes that made Meghan Markle furious enough to reportedly cut ties with an entire television network, what Piers Morgan said when he found out, and what it means when the most powerful comedy show in American television turns on the woman who thought America was finally on her side. This is Royal Daily Report, and tonight, the comedians have the receipts. Let us start with Saturday Night Live. Because most people outside America do not fully understand what SNL actually is and why being targeted by it matters so much. Saturday Night Live has been broadcast on NBC since October 1975. It is the longest-running live sketch comedy show in American television history. Every week during its season, it reaches millions of live viewers and tens of millions more through clips shared across social media. Being targeted by SNL is not like being targeted by a tabloid. It is not like being criticized by a politician. It is a cultural verdict, a declaration by one of America's most influential entertainment institutions that you have crossed the line from figure of sympathy into figure of comedy. And in the spring of 2026, that verdict landed on Meghan Markle. During a Weekend Update segment, hosted by Colin Jost, one of America's most recognizable comedians and the husband of Scarlett Johansson, a joke was delivered about Harry and Meghan that made the entire audience laugh and made Meghan, according to insiders speaking to royal columnist Rob Shooter, absolutely furious. Jost called her an American terrorist. His framing, according to the Royal Observer's May 2026 report, was that she was supposedly keeping Prince Harry hostage in the United States against his will. An American terrorist for supposedly holding a British prince captive in California. The audience laughed. The clip went viral. And Meghan reportedly did not laugh at all. If you want to understand exactly why this particular joke landed so differently from everything that came before it, subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now. Because what comes next is where this story reveals something genuinely significant. Here is why the SNL joke mattered in a way that British tabloid criticism never quite did. Meghan has, for years, positioned America as her safe space, her refuge, the country that understood her, valued her, and saw her for who she really was, unlike Britain, whose press she described as cruel and destructive. She gave her biggest interview to Oprah, an American. She signed deals with Netflix, an American company. She launched her lifestyle brand for an American audience. She built her post-royal identity around the idea that she had finally come home to a country that welcomed her. And then Saturday Night Live, the most American of American institutions, made her the punchline of a joke about being a terrorist who holds a British prince hostage. The ground shifted, because this was not Piers Morgan calling her out from Britain. This was not a British tabloid running a headline about someone the British public already disliked. This was American comedy, American television, and American audiences laughing at her. According to Rob Shooter, writing on his naughty but nice Substack and cited by the Royal Observer in May 2026, sources close to Meghan described her as furious. The source said, and these are the exact reported words, quote, Meghan does not laugh when she feels publicly humiliated. And then came the consequence. Meghan reportedly decided to shut the door on NBC, the broadcaster that airs Saturday Night Live, permanently. No more appearances. No more collaborations. No more relationship with the network. According to the Royal Observer, she reportedly feels attacked and has decided that NBC is no longer a place she wants to associate with. The woman who spent years complaining that the British press was out to destroy her had now, according to insiders, extended that list to include an American comedy institution. Like this video right now if you had no idea the SNL joke had gone this far. And subscribe to Royal Daily Report, because what comes next is about the man who has been waiting for exactly this moment since 2016. Piers Morgan. The moment the SNL clip started circulating, there was exactly one person on Earth who was going to respond to it the loudest, the fastest, and with the greatest visible satisfaction. And that person was, of course, Piers Morgan. We have told you the full story of the Piers Morgan and Meghan feud on this channel before. The 2016 pub meeting that led nowhere. The ghosting that Piers has never stopped talking about. The Oprah interview that cost him his job at ITV after he said he did not believe a word Meghan said. The 41,000 Ofcom complaints. The walkout. The talk TV show he built from the rubble of his ITV exit. All of it. And now, in 2025 and 2026, Piers Morgan has found himself in the extraordinary position of watching not just British media, not just British comedians, but American media and American comedians arrive at approximately the same conclusion about Meghan Markle that he had been expressing loudly since 2018. On his talk TV show Piers Morgan Uncensored, which has continued to attract significant viewership particularly for its coverage of the Sussex story, Morgan invited American columnist Maureen Callahan to discuss the SNL moment and its broader context. What followed was a television segment that, according to Royal Insider's October 2025 report, made headlines in multiple countries. Callahan, speaking directly to camera on Morgan's show, said something that made British audiences stop and take notice. She said, and these are her exact documented words, quote, "I hear this all the time from the Brits. What do Americans really think of Harry and Meghan? We despise them. We have had a conclave of sorts. We have come to a universal response. We despise them." Piers Morgan, sitting across from her, did not need to say anything else. The point had been made more powerfully than he could have made it himself. Do not go anywhere. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report and turn on those notifications, because what comes next is about the SNL jokes that came before the American terrorist line and what they reveal about how long this has actually been building. The American terrorist joke was not the first time SNL had targeted Meghan. It was the most memorable and the most cutting. But the pattern had been building for months before it. In a May 2025 episode of Saturday Night Live, during the Weekend Update sketch, Colin Jost made a joke about the US-UK trade deal that was circulating in the news at the time. He said, quote, "President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two." And on screen, a photograph of Harry and Meghan appeared. The joke positioned Harry and Meghan not as celebrities, not as royals, not even as controversial public figures, but as unwanted cargo. Things Britain wanted to offload onto America. Things America was being asked to keep as part of a trade negotiation. The audience laughed. And then, in a March 2026 Saturday Night Live UK opening sketch, cast member Hamd Animation quipped, playing a character in a historical royal setting, that Harry was going to marry a woman that 98% of the UK public would find it impossible to have a normal conversation about. That joke, according to the Royal Observer's May 2026 report, was a direct dig at Meghan's unpopularity in Britain, referencing her YouGov approval rating, which has now fallen to 19%. 3 separate SNL moments. 3 separate cutting jokes at Meghan's expense, each one building on the last. Each one revealing a little more about how the show's writers were thinking about her. Not as a sympathetic figure, not as a misunderstood outsider, as someone whose contradictions were too visible and too consistent to ignore. Now let us put Piers Morgan into the full picture of this moment, because his reaction to all of this is not simply the celebration of a man who was proven right. It is something more complicated and more human than that. Piers Morgan lost his most prominent career position in British television because of Meghan Markle. He said he did not believe her account of suicidal thoughts. She filed a complaint. 41,000 people complained to Ofcom. He walked off his own show live on national television and was gone from ITV within 24 hours. That is an extraordinary sequence of events. And everything that has happened since, the talk TV show, the constant commentary, the interviews with American journalists like Maureen Callahan, who echo his own views back to him from the other side of the Atlantic, has to be understood in that context. This is not just a journalist covering a story. This is a man who watched a woman he had met once in a pub in 2016 fundamentally alter the trajectory of his professional life. and who has spent the years since watching the rest of the world slowly arrive at the same place he was standing in 2021. First, the British tabloids said it. Then the British comedians said it. Then YouGov measured it. Then SNL made a joke about it. And then Maureen Callahan said it on live television on Piers's own show. We despise them. It is impossible to imagine what that sequence of events feels like to Piers Morgan. To have been fired for saying something that, 5 years later, the most American of American institutions is not just implying, but joking about in front of millions of people. Let us be completely honest about what this story is and is not. It is not evidence that the critics of Meghan are right about everything. Public opinion is not the same as truth. YouGov polls measure feelings, not facts. SNL jokes are designed to generate laughter, not deliver verdicts. And Piers Morgan, for all his satisfaction at the current moment, is still a man who walked off his own show because he lost his composure, who built his own credibility on being provocative, and whose personal grievance against Meghan has never been fully separate from his professional criticism of her. The SNL American Terrorist joke was, by most analysis, a cheap shot rather than a pointed satirical observation. And Maureen Callahan's claim that Americans universally despise Harry and Meghan is, according to polling, an exaggeration. American approval of the Sussexes, while lower than it was in 2021, remains significantly higher than British approval. But here is what is genuinely true and documented. The comedy world, on both sides of the Atlantic, has turned toward Meghan in a way that was not happening even 2 years ago. SNL does not make the same joke about someone 3 times in 1 year without a reason. British comedy does not put someone in the crosshairs of its biggest arena acts without a cultural consensus driving it. And Piers Morgan does not get to host a segment where an American columnist says she despises the Sussexes on live television without that representing something real about how the conversation has shifted. Whatever the reasons, whatever the fairness, whatever the full truth of Meghan Markle's story, the moment when she went from the woman who got Piers Morgan fired to the woman being called an American terrorist on Saturday Night Live is a moment worth understanding. This is Royal Daily Report, and we are going to keep telling you the story behind the story. That is all for tonight, friends. I am James, and this has been Royal Daily Report. If this story hit different for you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications because we drop new stories every single week. Share this video with one friend who loves royal news. I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and stay royal. Goodbye, friends. Hello, friends. If you are not subscribed to Royal Daily Report yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button right now.